Lady, it's all true. It's all a lie. Your people's problem. For once, you can feel as lost as some of the people in this room feel. For how many hundreds of years have your people had their boots on our neck? Now we have the teeth. You don't get to find the answers to the questions that you have.
Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. My guest is one of the entertainment industry's most sought-after actors. He is also a celebrated writer and director. You know him from his breakout performance as Fela Kuti in Fela the Musical, and he continues to dazzle audiences as Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec in the smash hit musical Moulin Rouge, and is currently one of the stars of season 2 of Ariane Moayad's hit series The Accidental Wolf that streams on Topic. Please say hello to Sahr Ngaujah. How are you, my friend?
Hi, I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. First of all, how are you and where are you?
I'm doing quite well, thankfully. It's been, obviously a very interesting time for everybody all over the world. I'm in Brooklyn right now, Brooklyn, New York, just a few miles away from my day job, which is 8 shows a week on Moulin Rouge. And yeah, it's a little frosty outside, but it's not too bad.
I think we have to gear up for the weekend, which they're talking about a lot of snow maybe dropping on New York, right?
That's what they say. That's what they say. Fortunately, there are snow plows and salt and heavy boots for
I
people to
love it.
still get
It's all
about.
about the heavy boots.
Oh man, it sure is, and the underlayers.
Oh, listen, I'm going out later. I'm getting it all on. It's all about the underlayers and the heavy boots.
That's
Have
right.
you been able to put the past 2 years or so into any kind of perspective?
Oh, wow.
It's a big one.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I still have trouble situating the year 2020
Yeah.
in time and space in my mind. There's always sort of like this gap or this ambiguous uh, sort of, you know, mental GPS that kind of just wavers back and forth when I think about how many years ago did something happen. So that's an ongoing challenge, which really only causes problems in moments like this, where I need to talk about what happened in 2020. But I think the jury is still out on on the last 2 years. But fortunately, feels like we are able to take a little bit of a breath. I mean, this last sort of slaw we came through wasn't as devastating, um, uh, at least from a social economic standpoint, as 2020, obviously, with everything shutting down. Now, I mean, I realize that every community, has their own challenges. But in New York City, I can say, we were rather fortunate that a lot of things were able to stay open. People were, for the most part, able to carry on working, although Broadway, in particular, we still, saw some pretty harrowing ups and downs. For some, I mean, it also involved, shows closing. Still, I mean, even as early as last month. So, you know, still chugging along.
Yeah. That's all we can really do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, but the great thing about the arts is what saved everybody over these past 2 years. I mean, everybody looked for creative people to bring them some kind of joy or some kind of escape. And that must have been
Yeah.
great for you.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really it's wonderful to be able to offer a type of escape for people. Um, Moulin Rouge, in particular, it's one of those types of shows where you can just walk in there and just sort of forget that you just walked, that you're in Times Square. and whatever's going on in your life is happening, and just immerse yourself in music and, you know, and the lights,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, we're
Yeah.
going to get into Moulin Rouge, but I have to start
Mm.
with The Accidental Wolf is
Yeah.
back for season 2, streaming on Topic. This is an amazing series. I was
Mm.
obsessed with season 1. I'm even more obsessed with
Oh.
season 2. How did the show come about for you, Sahr, to be a part of?
Right. Well, that started. I already knew Ariane through uh, New York City theater community, and also through the New York City Iranian community. I have some very, very close links there, and so that's how my relationship with Ariane began to develop over the years. And when he approached me about this project, for all the things he had to say about it, I was in. you know, yeah. I mean, we could talk, specifics
Yeah.
about that, but yeah, I mean, it was a solid pitch, and well, to get more specifically, I mean, I was drawn to his vision for the arc of the story, and I was also drawn to inform his method of storytelling. I, for one, thought that the idea of a psychological thriller with empathy being sort of the driving impulse. Well, I thought that was fresh,
Yeah.
and I think it was probably around 2017, at least 2017, if not earlier, when he first approached me about it. And then, um, I mean, he was proposing episodes even shorter than what they are now, which was also um, a really interesting approach. Like really short episodes and packed full of things. So there was that, and then also, my father's family is from and based primarily in Sierra Leone, which is where a lot of the story takes place. Even story that isn't seen on screen. And my family, we survived the decade-long civil war in the '90s, as well as the um, Ebola outbreak in the teens of 2000. And you know the questions around the laboratories that were working in some of the more remote parts of the country. uh you know the, the questions around those laboratories, I mean, they played they had a psychological effect on a lot of people in country, trying to understand what was really going on. So for at least for those many reasons, and probably more, I was 100% attracted
Yeah.
to
He's
working
such a
on the
brilliant
project.
writer. Before we get into that, talk about the role that you play and what you love about him.
Yeah, well, I think it's the first time I've played a Sierra Leonean on camera. So, uh, that was really interesting, and to play a Sierra Leonean in New York, and kind of just deal with what that is, where Sierra Leoneans are, and what are some of the ambiguities about the life that some Sierra Leoneans lead in New York City, particularly those who came here fleeing the conflict um, in the '90s. And uh, Ariane's openness, from what he wrote, and then to also, try to get as close to the reality of what, of marrying what he wrote to what is actually going on the ground, was a really wonderful and interesting process. As a result, I had the opportunity to introduce Ariane to other Sierra Leoneans leading different types of lives here in the city, and using that or integrating that into how the story uh, would unfold, or how it unfolds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What an incredible cast you get to work
Mm,
with, including Kelly O'Hara. What is it like
yes.
sharing the screen with her?
It's awesome. Working with and this is the first time working on this project is the first time I've worked with Kelly. Obviously, she's prolific,
Yeah.
and I was familiar with her work, but working with her in this context and for it to be film as opposed to theater was also quite interesting. She's a brilliant actor, quite giving and open and nuanced in her approach to what she's bringing, but also in the interaction, and getting to the heart of what it is we need to be communicating at any given moment. Working with Kelly, and I'm going to open it up. Working with Kelly, but then also working with other well-seasoned stage actors on this project. It, it, uh, Obviously, when we are creating a work of theater, we have the rehearsal hall. We have weeks, months of the repetition and the exploration that we can then follow up on stage. As we hone um, our way of interacting with each other, the type of space we give each other to make our offerings and then respond to those offerings, and heighten moments using what we are both bringing to the table, or within small ensembles, whether it's a three-hander or four-hander at any given moment. And in this process, because we don't have that type of time, we there's a much more keen sense of diving deep into the exploration as quickly as possible to make the most out of whatever the offering is going to be, with just a few rehearsals, and then jumping right into the scene and per where the camera is. How do we make the most of that? And working with Kelly was full of all the best parts of that, as it was working with the other actors on
Yeah.
this project.
Looking, Arian is such a brilliant writer. I mean,
Mm,
he could have written all those scripts today, and he didn't.
yes,
He wrote them a few years ago, and I'm like,
that's
it's
right.
the world we're living in today. Isn't that
Hmm.
amazing?
It really is. It really is. And it's fascinating how that's work. I mean, I imagine it will just carry on becoming more relevant,
Yeah.
finding deeper context as time moves on, and then even with the ability to look back at it as something that was written um, before. I mean, it also it creates sort of the appreciation that you can have for a well-aged anything,
Yeah.
of quality.
It's that timeless quality too. But what I also love about this series is there aren't any answers really. Sometimes you
Mm-mm.
think it's about this. Oh, but it's not about this. It's
Yeah,
about that. And it's just
right.
fascinating the journey, this whole entire accidental wolf, like who is the wolf? Who is the prey? It's so fascinating to
Yeah,
watch.
yeah. I agree, and also, you know, uh, putting this question of empathy, under the spotlight. Like, what do you do when your empathy becomes the potential agent of your own undoing? You know, what do you do with that? From a philosophical standpoint, or from an impulsive standpoint. If you hear someone crying out on the subway platform or on the street, do you sacrifice your body to help them? do you shout? Do you say a prayer for them and keep walking? What do you do? There are a lot of people who need help these days, and there are a lot of different ways that we can help. What happens when you try to help and that help becomes something that
Well,
also hurts you?
it's so great because Kelly's character gets that phone call from a dying man to help his wife, and her whole life changes all because of his telephone call. And it's a fascinating series. It's just really, really brilliant. Not only do we get to watch you on the small screen on topic in this beautiful series, but you're also back on Broadway doing what you do best in Moulin Rouge. How exciting is it being back on Broadway again? And what do you remember about that first performance back on stage again in the show?
Well, yeah, it's great being back on Broadway, and for so many different reasons. I mean, it's a blessing to be able to engage in personally. I find it a blessing to be able to engage in work that I enjoy enough to where even when it's difficult, it's still pretty good. Uh, so being back has been a really joyous experience, and when we started back, we experienced something that is not exclusive to Moulin Rouge, to the Moulin Rouge company. And I'm sure you heard about this or experienced it yourself. When the shows began to open, the audiences were obviously quite hungry. Those who enjoy this type of offering, they were quite hungry for it. And when we finish a number, the enthusiasm from the audience, the type of applause and the ovations, the standing ovations that would happen, scene after scene, number after number, would cause some 2-hour shows to end up running for three. In those early days. Well, it was really gratifying, satisfying, and the tears of joy uh, were like offerings. Um, it was wonderful.
And being back in your dressing room again for that first time, like you're back at the Al Hirschfeld, you walk through the door, you sign your name. It's something, no one took it for granted, but it was like something you did every day. And I think everyone I've spoken to said, oh my gosh, I take all these moments really special now. When they open the stage door, they go back there, they sign their name, and they go to their dressing room. It's their temple, it's where they belong.
Yeah. It does still remain um, quite fascinating
Yeah.
and poignant every day. And we're, I'm reminded of that poignancy, or I've been reminded of that poignancy acutely, particularly in December when Omicron started, began ravaging, our sense of stability and well-being again. Uh, because we started, we had to close, for days at a time, and there was that remembrance coming back, and that collective sort of memory of the trauma of having a very unstable ground beneath our feet, and realizing that maybe not with COVID, but that it could all go away again. But in light of that as well, when on planet Earth was it before that there was a complete cessation of activities for theater completely all across the globe? All theaters go dark at the same time. Well, that's never happened. But at least I don't know about it. You know. Anyway, I think it's quite special that we all have that to share, not just in this town or in this country, but with people all over the world. And then as individuals, we also have to share with people all over the planet the idea of sitting in our homes for the better part of a year, contemplating our mortality. You know, I don't know what collectively our species has come to coming out of this thing. But you know, I'd be surprised if we haven't made a clear shift of some sort.
I came to Moulin Rouge the first week you came back. It was one of the first shows I wanted to see. And I was like, I
Mm.
want to go back into that theater and just get caught up in that whole thing. And it was, literally sat there and I cried. I literally sat there when it all started. I saw you all up there. I was like, this is what I had missed the most. Seeing
Man.
this, seeing my friends up there, seeing just, I mean, I caught Robin Herder's eye. I mean, it was just
Mm.
like, it was like
Hmm.
we're back. This is what we do. This is what live theater does, that connection between performers and an audience. And it was like going to a Broadway rock show all over again.
It sure was, and I saw you out there, Richard. You
Yeah, yeah.
know, yes, yeah, and seeing your face and some other familiar faces from the industry, and also fans. Some super fans actually who frequently travel from the far reaches of the globe to come sit in those seats for a few days out of the week, once or twice a year. It was incredible, and it remains to be incredible. And it's also it was also really nice to
Yeah.
see familiar faces that at least for me, in my mind's eye, sometimes people would cross my mind that I don't deal with every day during the 20 within 20 that year 2020. And I think, like, I wonder how that person is doing. Have they survived? How's their family? How's their heart? you know uh yeah, so.
I know you can't see the fans now at the stage door. I mean, that thing has stopped right now, but you
Yeah.
have such incredible fans from Moulin Rouge. Is there a
Mm.
favorite like fan moment, or just, how this show has touched someone who's come up to you during when the show first opened or whatever and said, this is life-changing for me?
Wow. Yeah, I probably have to go through the through the banks a little bit to pull out some of the more poignant ones. But one of the most shocking ones actually happened fairly early on, in in presenting Moulin Rouge to the world. This was still during the Boston run, where I didn't realize at that time how deep how deep Moulin Rouge was really sitting inside of people's consciousness, uh, starting with Baz Luhrmann's film, and now into the uh, the the stage production. Well, one woman, she was back. She was at the stage door, you know, along with so many others, and I was making the rounds, and I finally got to her, and she rolled her sleeves up, and she had 4 permanent tattoos on both arms. She just her arms out like that, and they were fresh tattoos. Freedom, beauty, truth, love. Written in this really beautiful Moulin Rouge sort of way. I was like, wow, you really did that, huh? She was like, yeah. I really believe in it. And I mean, the fact that she got something on her body permanently, relating to the show was that was that caught me by surprise. But what I found really nice about it is that the thing that she chose to put on her body, it was such nice words to carry with oneself: freedom, beauty, truth, love. Why not?
That's beautiful. See, this is what live theater does, and people connect to this, and that it changes their lives forever. And
Mm.
speaking of changing your lives forever, when we're growing up, there are certain things that happen in our life that change our path. And I want to ask you about growing up in Atlanta.
Mm.
How did being a part of the youth ensemble of Atlanta set you on your path to becoming an actor?
Yeah. Back then it was the Freddie Hendrix Youth Ensemble of Atlanta, and the Youth Ensemble of Atlanta still exists today. It's a slightly different iteration, obviously, but it's a lot of times passed. But wow, I can't even begin to qualify how impactful those years working with Freddie were on my career. On my psyche, really, and just sort of an understanding or beginning to understand the possibility of where I could fit inside of any community of humans, you know, and you know, taking it back, you know, hundreds of thousands of years earlier, you know, I didn't come into this world as a blacksmith or you know, a farmer. Um, I came in with a few tools that I'm not responsible for, you know, which have to do with storytelling, you know, passing on stories, be it myth or be it modern tales. And my responsibility has been to hone the craft
Yeah.
of communicating stories, and Freddie opened the door for me to do that. And he opened that door for me in the midst of, at any given point, at least 30 or 40 other young people who were also having this discovery and having these breakthroughs, most of whom I'm still in contact with in some way or another to this day, all of whom, the majority of whom are still doing amazing things. In this industry or in others, but because of Freddie believing in us before we really understood how to believe in ourselves, we were able to carve for ourselves a way in which to be a productive member of society, using the tools that we have that we came into the world with.
I just love to find out who, you know, I'd love to ask people, who is that person that unlocked this incredible door for you into this
Mm,
incredible world? And I love that you had that down there in Atlanta. That's wonderful. You know,
mm.
I, like many others, fell in love with you and your craft in Fela. I mean, I'll never forget. I used to go to see it
Mm.
all the time when you first came to New York in that. But we're just about out of time. So I want to tell our
Mm.
audience once again, Sahr is one of the stars of Arian Moayed's hit series, The Accidental Wolf, that streams on Topic. And you can also see him on Broadway doing what he does best in Moulin Rouge. I want to thank you, Sahr, so much for dropping by today.
Cheers, Richard. It's been quite a pleasure, and thanks for tuning in, everyone.
I love you both very much, but I don't think you can empathize with how devastating that phone call was for me.
You called the wrong number. You have to call back.
I don't want to divorce you.
What if you go down the rabbit hole again, down that long and windy road?
I can't make any guarantees.
You turned on the video. Turn it off, this video, turn it off. Come see us. She can't see us. She can't see.
I'm tired of being scared.
There were many explosions last year in Kenema, and people were killed.
We need to finish this.
You're in over your head. You're good now? You're well behaved?
I'm working on myself.
This is bigger than you think.
Will someone please tell me what's happened to me?
Never come looking for me again.
You're not gonna save anyone here.
Enough!
$50,000 for Tala. Now.